The following moments may contain explicit language.
Today we got a video from Touré titled "My Viral Fight with Cheyenne Bryant Explained." I guess you can call this a part 2 of the whole Touré and Cheyenne Bryant situation. So Touré is basically giving a breakdown of the whole fight between, verbal altercation between him and Dr. Cheyenne Bryant. But before we get into the video, do me a favor. If you're not subscribed, hit that sub button. If you like the content, hit the like button. Let's get into it.
Wrap the show. I'm ending the show. What is the point of interrupting me? We're getting out of here. Like, what is the point? What is the point? It says go to host up.
When you're talking to me.
That's me and Cheyenne Bryant fighting on TV. This was last year, 2025. I was the host of the show. She was the #1 permanent guest. She was on every episode. She and I were the heart of the show. This car crash moment happened as I was pulling into the very end of the show during the last episode of the season. The producer was telling me to wrap because we had to stay on time. It was over. And Cheyenne knew we had to wrap because of time. She had been told many, many, many times throughout the season, do not interrupt Touré as he's wrapping the show. It was written in the script, in every script, do not interrupt Touré as he's wrapping the show. She and I and the producer had a whole meeting mid-season about don't interrupt Touré when he's ending the show. I tried to avoid her interrupting me by tossing the last question of the show to her so she would feel like the show had ended with her getting to speak a lot.
Doc, what do you think about the notion of holding parents criminally responsible for their children's behavior?
I was constantly thinking of ways to placate her massive ego.
I said it earlier. I said it's circumstantial. I think that if a parent is neglecting their child of what's needed for them to be mentally stable and healthy and be in a state of mind where they can actually, operate as a citizen who isn't impaired, then I think that that parent who's providing those resources, should not be have consequence or discipline.
She doesn't really know where she's going.
Again, if you're neglecting your child in any manner, I think there should be consequences to a parent, no matter what, if there's neglect at the hands of a child. But y'all know how I feel.
I'm not gonna lie. When I was watching this, I did not pick up on it. Right? I subconsciously knew I didn't understand anything she was saying. She was like kind of going in circles, and she didn't really. The question was kind of straightforward, and she was just kind of like going all over the place. But he makes a good point. She is talking a bunch of gibberish.
Gentle parenting makes for a gentle child.
Unsure of where to go, but desperate to keep talking, she has for some reason looped back into the argument that we had been having all season long, even though it had very little to do with what we were talking about. But she brought us back around to gentle parenting, whatever that really means, because she wanted to take one last jab at me, bringing up the issue that she knew might trigger me because it usually did, because she was so incredibly wrong. All season long, I argued that children should never be spanked or hit, which is what the entire modern child psychology field believes.
No child development researcher would ever tell you that spanking is a good idea at this point. It only leads to negative behaviors in the child.
It always made me suspicious of her credentials to hear her advocate for violent parenting. What person who's educated in the field of child development would do that?
I think that there are rules and there's structure, and there's a thing called boundaries, and boundaries have been proven to create healthy relationships, not just between people, but for that person within themselves.
Okay, but boundaries don't really relate to corporal punishment. You're conflating things that are of different issues.
If we raise kids with no boundaries and no structure and discipline, they go out into the world and they don't understand that, and they end up being in battles, and they end up actually having a lot of issues with law enforcement.
Completely untrue. People with law enforcement problems are far more often the victim of abuse or violence in the home than not.
The jails are full of people who were gentle parented. It's quite the opposite. They're full of people who were hit as children. Same things with shows like Beyond Scared Straight. Do you think those kids were being hugged every day?
So people that have that outlook, right? I wanna put it into perspective for you guys that have that, you know, the jail is full of people that were abused or beat, right? I think you're taking out of context. A lot of those people that are in jail grew up in poverty. When you left the household, the world around you also develops you. Right. You might get introduced to violence in the household, but violence is outside. So let's say you never beat your child. Your child goes out into the world, somebody else might beat them. That's violence, right? Either way you put it, your child is going to get introduced to violence somehow, some form of it, whether it's verbal, physical, mental, whatever. Your child is going to witness violence. You also have to talk about the kids that, you know, weren't beat and committed murders, right? Murdered their parents, murdered other people. What about those people that are in jail? I don't think you beating your child is going to take them down a trajectory of jail. I don't see how that correlates. I got my ass beat. I've never been to jail. Well, I've never been to prison. I'll say that. Never been to prison. Been to like the bookends and shit like that. But other than that, I've never been to prison.
The more you put your hands on your child, the more normalized violence becomes, and the more they perpetuate it outside the house.
So Cheyenne's building an argument for violence toward children entirely built on folk wisdom, ignoring the modern knowledge and studies in the child psychology field, which she claims to be a part of. For you, civilian, to claim that hitting kids is a good idea is totally different than a supposed family and child therapist or a psychology expert to argue that when no one else in the field would.
That makes sense. Like you have an illness and someone telling you this is what you should do to cure it, where a doctor is telling you that's not going to work or don't do that. That's going to make it worse. Who are you going to listen to? But this is kind of different in the sense like it's all theories. It's all, you know, speculation. It's not 100% like facts. I can totally understand, you know, taking advice from someone that went to school for something rather than someone that didn't. I can understand that. But in this sense, he definitely has a valid point. It's okay for us, me and you, to have an opinion whether or not you should beat your child compared to someone that's in the field or claims they're in the field telling you the opposite of what their studies show them.
More than anything, made me certain that she wasn't really a doctor.
Much of her points will be like nonsensical to actual doctors, but here's the thing. She sounds great to untrained ears. See, in the Black community, we aren't really like great fans of, you know, gentle parenting, spare the rod, spoil the child. You would expect an actual professional who's trained in child therapy to be able to diagnose children, find solutions, figure out why kids are acting this way and how to solve it. Cheyenne Bryant, I guess, solution for a bratty kid is to bring out that belt and whoop him. And Touré is like, bro, this is not what a doctor who's trained in child therapy would say. Even if you're one of those people who agree with her and you agree that 2-year-olds deserve corporal punishment, you at least have to see some type of red flag in a doctor not being able to contain herself as somebody rebuttals or responds. Now, in this case, Touré wasn't even rebuttal. He was just trying to end the show. He was trying to wrap up. So he was doing his little monologue before wrapping up. Because he offered up any type of critique, she couldn't even allow him to say 3 sentences out of his mouth before she tries to interrupt to go on another 4 or 5 minute soliloquy.
There's a big world that they are able to participate in, but they cannot be the center of attention to everything. And so I'll end on saying,
She said, I'll end on this because the producer was then telling her, stop talking. You've been talking forever. And she's signaling back, okay, I'll stop eventually. It really destroys the flow of the show to have one person talk for a long time, especially when they have nothing to say.
What I do agree with is that every child is different and that every child may not necessarily need
She's not making a coherent or intelligent point.
the same level of discipline, but every child does need structure and discipline in order for that child to grow up and be an adult who understands that this is.
She just said every child doesn't need discipline, but then says every child needs structure and discipline. What is she talking about? that makes me think about the video I did, right? The prior video I did, where I made a statement saying, you see how women could be evil. When I said that statement, I just wanted to clear this up. When I said that statement, I didn't mean to say all women. I should have said some women can be evil, or I could have said it. Most women have the ability to be evil, or show little hints of like real petty or like wicked little things that they do. Like for instance, not letting, if you have kids, not letting the father of your child see your kids, making it hard for them to see your kids, using past trauma against them. When you divorce your husband, you try to take away the house, the money, the car, all this. Those are all things that like literally I was trying to hint at like how women can sometimes be really cruel, right? And I'm not saying men don't have that characteristic either of being cruel in different ways, right? Men and women can both be cruel in their own ways. I was just pointing out the fact, because she's a woman, right? And she grifted to other women. Her characteristics are like really nasty. And I was trying to point that out, but I should have worded it a little bit better. But let's continue.
Not just only externally, but internally, what they do carry at the nucleus of who they are is discipline and boundaries.
All of that was somehow a defense of parents hitting children. Meanwhile, the producer is yelling at me to wrap the show because we're about to be late. We've got to stay on time. So I've got to flow into the ending, and I don't want to destroy her silly point and make her look bad, but I'm letting her know I heard the gentle parenting dig. So I say,
if gentle parenting creates gentle children, sign me up. I definitely want to create more gentle adults, especially men.
That's a way of disagreeing with her in an agreeable way. You can't argue against the world needing more gentle men. Male violence is a central problem in the world. So that was a gentle retort to her non-point, and it wrapped the show up on a nice tone. And suddenly, we were on time. At that moment, I had about 60 seconds left to read 60 seconds worth of business, sponsor promos, and stuff like that. So I had pulled it off. Cheyenne knows I'm wrapping the show, but she won't let it go.
I definitely want to create more gentle adults, especially men. Especially men.
Let's not lie like he ain't say that sarcastically. Touré, come on now. You could have said it without the face, but God forbid we have more gentlemen. Like, come on. You know what you did. And that kind of sent her off that. Now, I'm not agreeing for how she did it or in the form she did it in, right? She was very disrespectful, right? You were sarcastic and a little bit petty, right? And from the tone, and from what you said, it's been, she's been doing what she's been doing the whole season or however long your show is going on. So I can understand it could get annoying, right? But you making it seem like, oh, I just said, I just, I put it out there in a way where you basically can't disagree with it. Like, you didn't do it just like that. You kind of, she made her talking points and you rebutted her talking points in a very sarcastic way, right? Some people can't handle sarcasm. I'm a sarcastic asshole. I'm not gonna lie. I am very sarcastic, especially when I feel like you're an idiot. Sarcasm comes very quick. You handled that very sarcastically, right? She felt like in her mind she made a very intelligent point, and here you go being sarcastic, like, oh, I feel like we should have, God forbid we have more gentlemen. And to your point about gentlemen, that's not reality. Men, that's never going to happen. You want all men to be gentle? Men are naturally aggressive, right? That's just how men are, and the way we talk. Like it's just how we are. And I feel like nowadays a lot of men are more gentle, but not to the sense of what you're referring to, or how Cheyenne views you, because she views you as too gentle, and that's the problem, right? Because when you become too gentle, you become more feminine, and women don't want feminine men. They want men. That's like the equivalent of saying, I want more rougher females, right? Females should be rougher. Why would you want females to move away from what they naturally are? Why would you want men to move away from what they naturally are? Yes, men should be more aware of certain things, but I don't know if gentle is the word. You know, because when you say gentle, like you're implying soft. That's why it hurt you when she kept saying, we know you're gentle. It started to hurt you, and it was like in a sarcastic way, just like kind of how you did with your, like, you know what I mean, the facial expressions and all that.
Especially men, especially men.
When I said, hold on, everybody, that's my signal to her that she can't get back in. Please stop talking. I'm wrapping the show. Because I can hear her trying to get back into the conversation. She's trying to interrupt me.
You are a
My God, are you kidding?
Now, we're not in the same room. We're on Zoom. I can only hear her through an earpiece. And if I'm talking, I cannot hear what's coming through the earpiece. I can only hear that someone is talking, but not what they're saying. And I know that if two people are talking at once, the audience can't hear either of them, and it's terrible TV. We've talked about this 100 times, but she won't stop.
Hold on, guys.
For a second time, I'm telling her again, hold on, please stop talking. I'm the host and I'm not relenting. That means you must stop talking. Let me do my job. I've got to be able to do my job as far as shaping the conversation for maximum impact and holding us on time. When you interrupt me, you're making it impossible for me to do my job.
Hold on, guys. That's what we need in the world is more gentle men who understand.
You're very gentle, and it comes
But even though she has nothing to say, she is dying to interrupt me.
Hold on, guys. That's what we need.
She's attacking me now. You're very gentle. She intends it to seem emasculating. She's basically saying, you're gay.
You might as well call him gay, because what you were trying to do was emasculate him. It's not his fault that you're not a real doctor.
Here he is trying to have a civilized discussion, and here you had his hood rat trying to tear this brother down and emasculate him. This woman gives off hood rat, halfway educated energy.
I can hear her talking a lot while I'm talking, and by now I know we've talked at the same time for a while. This is bad TV. She's like a barrier preventing me from doing my job. And because we had talked about that specific issue all season long, I got upset.
Let's just stop and go back. Because I'm wrapping the show and you're interrupting me.
First of all,
this is what we spent a whole meeting on this.
We spent a whole meeting on this, because we had spent a whole meeting with the producer to explain again this one issue. Don't interrupt him when he's wrapping the show. When he's doing any of the traffic cop business of hosting the show, as in moving us from one segment to the next or ending the show. I have to be able to do those things without her breaking in to say nothing.
Well, Touré, first of all, Touré.
Why don't you let me wrap the show? I'm ending the show. What is the point of interrupting me? We're getting out of here. Like, what is the point? What is the point? It says go to host wrap up.
When you're talking to me.
She tells him to lower his voice that wasn't raised at that point.
I said, why don't you let me wrap the show? I'm explaining why I'm upset. I'm focused on the issue at hand.
He's not being aggressive. He's not really even being dismissive, but he just wants to wrap the show and get out of there.
Lower your fucking voice when you're talking to me.
So now,
someone in the previous video that I made was like, I don't know what having a dick has to do with, you know, the whole situation, but she was basically, you know, out of line. And when I made that joke, right? Because maybe it went over some of you guys' head when I made the joke. When men speak to other men, there's usually a line of respect there, because it can go either way if there's disrespect. When she's talking to Touré, or when any woman talks to a man like that, maybe you're not taught this as women nowadays. I don't know. Somewhere subconsciously, and there needs to be, I need to watch how I talk to this man, because he can haul off and hit me. Even though it's frowned upon to do so, there are still some men that out there that will beat a girl's ass. Like, it just is what it is, right? Because some men can't control their emotions. When you talking to a man, like with all that bravado, and like she was talking like she had a dick, like she was a nigga. Touré didn't raise his voice, right? But she basically bullied him in that situation. You ever seen someone bully someone else? The person that's getting bullied usually is not doing anything, but the bully is going to make it seem like that person is doing something. So they're going to exaggerate whatever that person is doing just to push the point, just because they want to mess with that person. So for whatever reason, right, she felt like she had it in her to say that to Touré, a man. Regardless of how you feel, if he's soft, gentle, whatever. I mean, that's probably the reason why she said that the way she did, right? That gentle shit, right? Because when women view gentle men, they feel like they can walk over them. She talked to him crazy, as if he was a bitch. Any other man would talk to another man like that, because we know subconsciously if we talk like that to another man, it can come with violence. Because it's a respect thing. You can have a problem or a disagreement with someone or get a little upset at someone. But as long as it's respectful, violence 9 times out of 10 won't happen. But she, she's protected because she's a woman.
The supposed doctor, who's supposedly a talk therapist, who supposedly understands conflict management, is cursing at me and mocking me for having feelings and trying to trigger me further.
Her name calling Touré means absolutely nothing, but it shows how ignorant she is.
This is not professional TV demeanor, but it's definitely not a professional therapist with a doctorate. That's clear.
Because you're acting very, very gentle, very soft, and very feminine.
She's trying to trigger me. She's trying to say, you're gay.
Only proving my point.
I'm upset that she broke protocol for the millionth time.
Soft and very feminine.
I'm very feminine, she says.
She calls him feminine.
So getting upset is feminine? That's a strange thing to say when you're into female empowerment. Your acting feminine is a diss in your mind? Is that what you teach?
Because only females can be females. Just keeping it 100. I'm not saying you can't have feelings. I'm not saying that. But what he just said is basically like, you're supposed to be into female empowerment. Yeah, female empowerment is for females. I don't know why you tried to throw that in there like a jab. She's clearly looking at you like a bitch, and you're not supposed to be like that. That's where the disrespect is coming in. She views you like you're not a man. Like you're a sissy boy, basically, without saying that. She feels like females should be females, feminine, and men should be men. Whatever that, entails. However you view men. But they shouldn't be feminine.
Clients? Coach Bryant?
All right, you talk to your wife like that. You don't talk to me like that. I am not your wife.
What does his wife have to do with any of this situation? She's just trying to insult Touré. You don't talk to me like that. The calm demeanor of Touré is exactly what a lot of women tell men they're looking for, right? They want somebody that can be calm and understanding and speak to them in a way to try to get through to him. But now, that in Cheyenne's mind, that's weakness. And she's throwing it back in his face.
I'm not proud that
That's just what I said.
My cool. But even though I was upset, I remained focused on the issue. Your interrupting is making it impossible for me to do my job. And we had a whole meeting about that. She's attacking my manhood.
I'm not your wife, Softy.
I'm not your wife, Softy.
That was crazy.
Again, with the attempted emasculation. Again, trying to amp up the problem and not taking any accountability. Again, trying to trigger me, trying to insult me, going way out of bounds. I am not trying to insult her. I'm saying, let me do my job. She's pulling off her earrings and smearing on the Vaseline.
Don't fucking talk to me like that. Check.
Frank and Ariva, I apologize.
Check yourself. You don't talk to me like that.
Hold
talk
on,
to your
Doc.
wife like that.
Doc, hold on.
This is not a person with a doctorate in psychology. I don't need to see any transcripts. She still was mad wild even after I stopped talking.
Shut the fuck up talking to me like that. That's what you do. That's what you do.
Like I said, we already reacted to all this, but watching it again, it's just like, god damn. And like, she called him Softy. That's wild. That's one reason why I don't even get in arguments with females, because it's a lose-lose. You can't, once it gets to a certain point, you can't put hands on them. Some niggas do. It's pointless. Right? You can have a little back and forth, but once it get, yeah, it's done. Don't let it get to a certain point, because the girls don't know. They going to take it to a point because they, in their mind, they know if you hit me, you a bitch ass nigga. But in this world, you can't beat up a girl. You can't. Like I said, some dudes do it, and I'm not saying you should. That's why you shouldn't get into arguments with females. It's pointless. It's a lose-lose. Then you brought up my wife. At that point, I feel like he should have defended his wife in that moment. If anything, you should have stood up like, hey, watch your mouth, bitch.
Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth!
You better tap into your gentleness and real quick.
We went back to the beginning of the ending, and I read the final credits, finished my job, and logged out. It was the most disappointing ending to a season that I had worked really hard on.
Toure was trying to reason with her, trying to tell her something professional that she should have known.
Cheyenne know Dr. Bryant calling that man soft and gentle like it was a drag while the internet is currently playing CSI Miami with her credentials is taking me the fuck out. And soft, please. Meanwhile, every time you ask or get asked a follow-up question, you want people to be soft with you, and all of your supporters are forming a prayer circle around you talking about giving grace and what? Softness. Because suddenly softness matters. Suddenly gentleness matters. And suddenly people should be handled with care, which is interesting because the first time that you got to try and sun that black man publicly, femininity and softness became the insults. Suddenly emotional regulation became weakness. And suddenly not performing WWE SmackDown masculinity meant that somebody was less credible. And let's stop with the fake confusion right now, because black people, we know what soft means when it's used or said at a black man with an attitude behind it. That is community code for you ain't man enough for me to give a fuck, care, or respect you. And that is the appetizer before homophobia and all of that shit really shows up. Honestly, the thing that is gagging me the most about this is that the woman that is publicly begging for nuance right now, empathy, understanding, and grace, tried to weaponize softness against somebody else. Bitch, you are currently asking for people to handle you gently right now.
You know, I really hate it when y'all make me come in defense of a man. So many times I have heard women, including my...
What? What? If I said something like that, I can't believe I'm coming into... I just had to clear up some jokes and some things that I said in my previous video, because a few, women were in the comment section. Imagine if I said some shit like that. I can't believe I got to clear this shit up about some fucking women. Like, I can't believe this shit. That's diabolical. Why would you not want to come in defense of a human being, right? That's clearly in a fucked up situation where they were done wrong. If the roles were reversed, I would be shitting on Toure. Right is right and wrong is wrong. It shouldn't matter what sex you are. This woman's a fucking weirdo.
Say that we want a man who's able to have communication without aggression. We want a man who is able to speak with us without yelling and without, getting buck and all of that. We want someone who is able to have serious conversations, lighthearted conversations, funny conversations, awkward conversations or whatever, and still not lose that respect for us. And in the clip that I saw between these two, that's exactly what Toure was doing. He didn't agree with her statements about gentle parenting. I didn't agree with it either, but he voiced his opinion. He voiced his reason why, and he tried to wrap it up. And she took a complete turn, an unnecessary turn. Why are we over here talking about, I'm not your wife, I'm not your wife, you better calm down talking to me like that, gentle, and we know what that is. We know what that is. You're trying to call him feminine. What? Because he not cussing you out and getting buck and saying he's gonna put hands on you or something? And we already have the situation where people don't think she's a doctor, and you're literally giving us examples on a platter. What doctor talks to somebody like that, especially in a public setting?
I had worked really hard to avoid that moment right there. And I think the reason why I got so upset was that her interrupting me in that moment showed that all the work I had done all season long was for nothing. See, being the host of a TV show is about more than what happens on the air. You have to manage your relationships with the other people on the show so they feel comfortable to trust you as the leader. The audience perceives us to have good chemistry when we have built trust off screen. Then it will show on screen. I had spent a ton of time throughout that season coaching her up like I was her TV life coach. Cheyenne back then was a person with a ton of TV talent. She had charisma and would say captivating things sometimes, but she was still super raw as far as understanding the structure of TV. She would talk for 5 minutes straight, an unprofessionally long monologue that destroys the flow of the show. I was there to help her bridge the divide. I was brought in to be the host of the second season of the show. In the first season, they had seen that Cheyenne often said things that went viral, but she was very difficult to work with as far as the on-air stuff like interrupting co-hosts, talking for insanely long periods of time, wandering off of the subject, stuff that really damages the quality of a show. I was brought in as a veteran, experienced host to help bring more structure to the show, which really meant reining in Cheyenne's on-air excesses. From the first conversation we had, I did not believe she was a doctor, and I always bristled at being asked to call her that. It never felt right. I could tell she was nobody's intellectual. But as an experienced host, I knew that creating on-air rapport is about a lot more than what happens on the air. I'm the one leading the conversation, so I'm the QB, and I always understood that I had to make Cheyenne feel safe. As in, with me as the QB, you will be able to talk a lot. I will throw the ball to you as much as I can. You're the number one option. I'm here to lift you up. I said those exact things to her over and over. She loved football analogies. You're the number one option on every play. I told her that so many times. I'm always looking to throw the ball to you, as in throw the conversation over to you. I communicated that on the show and offline. When I introduced the three guests, I introduced her last and put extra sauce on her intro to indicate that she was the star and placate her ego.
Seems like classic narcissistic behaviors, if you ask me. Seems like, yeah, she just wanted everything she did leading up to now. It just seems like she was trying to get out there to become a household name. I mean, she did it up until, at this point where motherfuckers ain't really fucking with her. If you still fuck with her, that's on you. You the fool.
I texted her before and after shows saying, you're the number one option. I'm going to get you the ball more than anyone else. But you got to let me do the traffic cop stuff. You got to let me change segments and wrap the show without having to compete with you for the space. You got to know that when I tell you to chill, don't interrupt, you got to chill. I'm the host. And when you go against the direction that I'm building up, it messes up the whole thing. And it looks like a mess. To have the permanent guest interrupting the host while he's driving the show is giving soul plane TV. And I am never trying to do soul plane TV. So I assured her over and over that she was the number one option. She's my number one wide receiver. I made sure that she got to talk whenever she wanted to. She could do a tiny pinky move and I'd know Cheyenne wants to respond to the point someone just made. Let me get her in. She was truly the first among equals, and I set her up to talk more often than everyone else. She often took her time and said completely uninformed things, and I didn't smash her. We were teammates. Sometimes I let her tease me and get the best of me, and it was fine. Like here, I teased one of the other guests about being too young. He's the youngest member of the show. So I said he was too young to remember Obama.
Dimitri, does this feel, I know you weren't alive for the Obama administration, but does this feel disrespectful to the former?
Cheyenne leapt in to say, Toure, you're so old, you're dead.
That's okay, Dimitri, because Toure was technically dead. He's an ancestor.
Okay. I let that pass without comment. All good.
See what I'm saying? You got a conversation ain't even between you. The banter ain't even between you. And you got to jump in. Sign of you're a narcissist. The spotlight needs to be on you. Crazy.
Subscribe and comment all.
Okay, so that's the end of the video. Yeah, basically giving his 2 cents of the whole situation. Yeah, he basically said everything I said in the first video. The only thing like we still kind of disagree on is the whole gentle parenting thing. Do I think gentle parenting is bad? No. Do I believe in gentle parenting? 50-50. Like I said, I feel like there should be, it's kid based. It depends on how your kid is, right? Do your kid have behavioral problems? If they do, try to get them the best help they can get to fix it or whatever. Talk to them. Go through all the proper steps before you implement whooping that ass. But yeah, other than that, he basically hit all the talking points and kind of dug deeper. He kind of dug deeper into the whole situation behind the show and dealing with her ego and all that stuff. And yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, I feel like we should definitely be done with her. Unless there's something else that pops up that's interesting that we find out about her, probably going to be done making videos about her. Let's pack her up, like I said in the last one. But just wanted to do this whole recap of this whole situation, wrap it up. Wanted to hear Touré's point of view and how he felt about the whole video and everything like that. But y'all let me know what y'all think about the situation in the comment section below. Like I said, in all my videos I drop, we can have a discussion. If you don't like something I said, leave it in the comment section. I'll try to elaborate on whatever I may have said so that there's no confusion. And like I said, ladies, I apologize for the statement I said. I should have worded it better. Yeah, so y'all let me know what y'all think in the comment section below. Hit that sub button, hit that like button, all that good YouTube stuff, and I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.